Hello, folks, and welcome to this new podcast called Shatter the Silence. This portion of the podcast will be hosted by myself. I am Brian Thomas Kopac, and I'm calling my segment of Shatter the Silence the Omega Glory. Why that? Well, very simple. I'm a big Star Trek fan of the original series, also the Next Generation. Some of the other ones, not so much. But anyway, and in the past, I have borrowed the names of various Star Trek, the original series episodes. And there was a really great episode called The Omega Glory. And what is an Omega man? Well, that's an independent person, free thinker. And I'm hoping this channel will be populated by people, by men who are free thinkers, consider themselves independent. And we're going to look at various men's mental health issues because in many ways they're overshadowed, and some of it has to do with ourselves. As men, we sometimes want to keep our emotions inside. We're supposed to do that as men, as we're told. And we could still be good, strong, independent men and still have feelings and emotions. And as this channel goes on, I will talk more and more about myself and bring in my personal information, personal experiences to help you all relate and just give you an idea of who I am. I'm going to state right now, for the record, I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I am a trained educator. I'm a trained historian, and I'm a trained political scientist. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by trained? Very simple. I possess a master's degree in all three of those fields. 3 separate master's degrees from 2 different universities. And so while I may not have a degree in psychology, I certainly can, I can definitely read medical journals, psychological journals, synthesize the information there, and report back to you. All right, and like I said, as time goes on, I will tell you more and more about myself, bring in a lot of personal experiences on the various topics I'm going to be discussing across this channel. I'm going to start off with hopefully what will be a weekly broadcast. All right, the day of this recording, it is October 10th, year 2025, and today is National Mental Health Awareness Day. All right, and like I said, I'm going to be focusing on the men's mental health aspect. There's a lot of great ladies I'm working with who are going to touch on a number of topics regarding mental health, and particularly helping out the ladies out there because it seems as we're going on and on into the 21st century, life seems to be getting more complicated, not easier. So, all right, let's move on. It is October, as I mentioned, October 10th. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. In today's episode, we are going to be focusing on men's breast cancer, MBC as they often call it. And yes, believe it or not, men can get breast cancer, and there's an incredible amount of stigma attached to men having breast cancer. All of it needless, all of it foolish, but let's try to peel back some of the stigmatism attached to men's breast cancer. Just so you know, folks, I myself am a cancer fighter right now. Back in early 2022, almost 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and there's a lot of stigmatism attached to that as well. And I will no doubt devote an episode to that particular challenge for men. And in many ways, doing the research for this episode, there really isn't much difference in the stigmatism attached to prostate cancer as compared to what I read about men's breast cancer. And sadly, less than 1% of all breast cancer diagnosis is going to involve men's breast cancer. Overwhelming of it is going to be women's breast cancer. And, well, I guess rightfully so. It's October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Just a week ago, I attended a 5K rally for women, and it only allowed women in the 5K, whether they're running, walking. So one woman being pushed in a wheelchair. And I got a lot of hugs and gave a lot of hugs to women who were fighting the disease, who were survivors of the disease. And it was just incredible to see this outpouring of women coming out to support that particular disease. And really great to see all the men at the finish line, all of us wearing pink in support of the ladies, or almost all of us. And it was great. It was great. It really was. Sadly, they only allowed women at that march. It's their march. They can do whatever they want. But there are men who do suffer from male breast cancer. And I'll give you some facts, give you a study about it, and then talk about all the side effects out there if you are a guy that happens to get diagnosed with male breast cancer. I want to point out probably the most famous person I'm aware of who suffered from male breast cancer was Peter Criss, the original drummer for the band Kiss. If you folks are into that music, I was as a kid. That was my first favorite band. I thought Peter Criss was a fantastic drummer, and it was really kind of devastating to hear that he had come down with male breast cancer. And he, in an interview I read online about him, he was shocked. He didn't even know men could get breast cancer. And that's part of the problem, is that men don't realize, yes, we, just like the ladies, can get breast cancer. And I'm happy to say he survived. He beat it. And when I say he was unaware that he could get breast cancer, I'm not surprised to read that. And when you hear the statistics in a moment, you'll probably understand why. Fact, just a fact. Only about 2,800 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer this year. Okay? If you're one of the 2,800s, that's a lot. But when you compare it to the almost 317,000 women who will be diagnosed with breast cancer this year, 2,800 is really a drop in the bucket. It is less than 1%. Okay, now we're going to talk about the stigmatisms attached to it in a moment, but just want to let you know that the Mayo Clinic, the Center for Disease Control, the Cleveland Clinic, to name a few, list the following as symptoms of breast cancer. Also, the National Breast Cancer Foundation, they also state the following. So if you're a guy out there and if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, you may want to check with your doctor. And if the doctor's unsure or can't say for sure whether or not you possibly have male breast cancer, ask to see a specialist. Ask for the referral, okay? But here are the symptoms. If you are a guy and you experience a lump with or without pain that feels like a knot or a hard pebble, lumps can be located right under or around the nipple or the armpit area. So like a woman, if you experience a lump around your nipple, it's a possibility. I'm not saying you do, because I'm not a doctor. I'm saying that's one of the symptoms, one of the possibilities that you could have male breast cancer. Secondly, if you have pain in the nipple or breast area, okay, that is also a symptom. Doesn't mean you have it, but it should be a red flag that maybe you need to go check with your primary care physician, your doctor. 3, changes to the skin in the breast area, including dimpling, puckering, or redness. Okay, that's another sign that you could possibly have male breast cancer. 4, change in the breast shape or size. Yeah, believe it or not, we men, we have a breast area. It's not as prominent, obviously, as the ladies, but we do. 5, nipple discharge. Okay, we're guys. We're not really supposed to have anything oozing out of our nipples. So if there's a discharge coming out of the nipples, again, that could very well be an indication that you may have male breast cancer. 6, a rash or sore on the nipple itself. And lastly, 7th one, again, these are all symptoms that have been agreed to by the organizations I mentioned earlier as signs of possible male breast cancer. The final one is the nipple turning inward. That could be a sign that you very possibly could have male breast cancer. And again, these are all symptoms that were approved, shall we say, by the following: the Mayo Clinic, the Center for Disease Control, the Cleveland Clinic, and the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So if you have any of those 7 symptoms, it might be in your best interest to contact your physician. And again, I'm going to tell you, as what looks like I'm going to be a cancer survivor. I just got to get a couple more years, 5 more years of, 4.5 more years of good blood work under my belt, and sometime in 2030 I can declare myself cancer free. Until then, just got to keep monitoring the blood work. Early detection is the key with any cancer. Early detection is the key to survival. And again, we're talking about only about 2,800 cases a year for men versus about 317,000 cases a year for women. Well, what does that tell us? Unfortunately for us guys, the sad part is that most money funneled into for breast cancer research goes to researching and funding breast cancer for women. Okay, can't blame it. Again, we are less than 1% of all breast cancers in the country. All right, but I want to talk now about a study I saw. It dates back to February of 2014. It's out of the United Kingdom. 3 doctors did this study, and they studied 78 men. Okay, you might be sitting there saying 78 men, that's not a whole heck of a lot, but when you realize there's only about 2,800 cases of male breast cancer, 78 is a pretty good representative sample. And they concluded that men will display most likely one of 4 symptoms if they are suffering from male breast cancer. And the symptoms are: number 1, anxiety; number 2, embarrassment; number 3 is emasculation; and number 4 is depression. So let's take a look at these here. Anxiety. This really applies to really anybody who gets cancer. When you hear those words said by your doctor, "You've got cancer," and that's exactly what my doctor said to me over the phone. I told him, "I'm sitting down, just tell me what was the results of the biopsy," and he said, "Well, you have cancer." All right. As this channel goes on, I'm going to probably be talking more and more about my personal family. Cancer runs rampant on both my mom and dad's side, so I fully expected to hear those words said to me at some time in my life. Wasn't expecting to hear it at age 54. I was kind of hoping I'd hear it at 74 or 84, but the chips fell where they may. So anxiety. Anybody who hears those words is naturally going to suffer from anxiety. Your brain is going to be racing with all kinds of thoughts. What's going to happen to me? Am I going to survive? At what age am I going to die? Am I going to beat this? Am I going to lose my hair? What's going to happen to me? In my case, with prostate cancer, you start wondering about what is going to happen to me, my sex life, all that kind of things. And it's scary. And you also wonder who's going to stand by your side and who's not. And I'm going to talk about that when I get to the depression part. So anxiety is natural. If you are diagnosed with male breast cancer or any cancer at all, talk to your doctor. Okay? If you need to get referrals to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, ask for it. Join support groups. Okay? They may help you. I'll be honest, I joined one support group for one session. It was for men just with prostate cancer, and I found it so incredibly depressing, but that's just me. It was sad just to be, you there and listening to men with the same issues I had, or in some cases even worse than I had, that didn't help me. But it doesn't mean it can't help you. All right? So, anxiety is normal with just about any kind of cancer. But what is unique to male breast cancer is the next thing: embarrassment. Again, because this is primarily a woman's disease. Can't beat around the bush. 317,000 women are going to be diagnosed with breast cancer this year versus 2,800 men. It is predominantly viewed as a woman's disease. And all of a sudden you're a guy and you have what is being perceived as a female disease. There's going to be embarrassment. You might be afraid to talk about it. You know, I mean, when I was diagnosed, I talked about my cancer a lot because I knew I was going to display symptoms of somebody going through cancer, losing weight, and cancer was good for dropping weight. I dropped about 30 pounds really quickly. I don't recommend it as a diet. Anyway, I digress. So there's going to be embarrassment with male breast cancer. All I can say is don't be embarrassed. You have a deadly disease, okay? And if other people are going to laugh at you or laugh at the disease, fine. Let them laugh. I made a lot of jokes about prostate cancer. I wanted to meet cancer head on. And I said to people, I'm going to laugh about it. Okay, that was my self-healing, okay? But there will be embarrassment with men who are diagnosed with this terrible, terrible disease. Remember, it's a deadly disease. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. You certainly didn't go out and ask for it. It's a deadly disease. It needs to be treated as a deadly disease. Which brings me to the third point, emasculation. I can tell you from firsthand experience dealing with prostate cancer, which, by the way, Prostate Cancer Awareness Month is September, the month before breast cancer awareness. There will be feelings of emasculation because, going back to the second point, this is not a disease that's supposed to affect men, but it does. Cancer can strike any organ in your body, from skin cancer to liver cancer to pancreatic cancer to brain cancer. The list goes on and on. If you have an organ with cells, that organ has potential to become cancerous. But there will be this feeling of emasculation because you are dealing with primarily a female disease, but it can affect men. All right. Again, this is where if you want to join a support group, talking to other cancer victims, other cancer survivors can really help you if you're open to it. Like I said, I went to one support group and I just found it so incredibly depressing to be there with other men who had prostate cancer worse than I did. I actually left depressed, feeling bad for the people that were there. And so, but there's no doubt about it, support groups can help you. Don't be embarrassed by it. Don't feel like you're less of a man, okay? Because you're not. You're not. And finally, that brings us to the last point, which is, and again, this affects all cancer victims, whether they have breast cancer, prostate cancer, or any cancer at all, is depression. Because there is this big variable called the unknown. And I went through this, will the treatment that is prescribed to be work? What if it doesn't work? Okay. For men, it's not so bad. For women, it's worse. The thought of losing your hair, the side effects of chemo, and I've been around enough people who were dealing with the side effects of chemo. It's nasty. It's horrible. Radiation, that's what I went through with my prostate cancer, along with hormone treatment. It'll knock you out. It really will. And again, I'll talk more about the hormone treatment with when I talk about prostate cancer and what I dealt with. But also with male breast cancer, they're going to do hormone treatment most likely. And when you start altering your hormones in your body, it's tough. It makes life difficult. And sadly, again, because there's not as much money put into male breast cancer research, basically what the doctors are doing, according to the medical journals I read, they're taking the research that they do for female breast cancer and just apply it to men, which I can't say one way or another because I'm not a doctor, but men and women were different. Okay, yes, we can donate organs to each other, we could donate blood to each other, but we're different. Women are primarily estrogen driven, men are primarily testosterone driven, and so based upon the journals I read to prepare for this episode, I'm not sure if just saying, okay, well, this is what we're doing with women, now let's apply it to men, is the proper thing to do. But again, I'm not a physician. I can't say for sure, but that if you are ever diagnosed with male breast cancer, that should be something you bring up with your doctor. And if the doctor doesn't have an answer, ask for a referral to a specialist who may have the answers for you. With depression, and I experienced this with my cancer, you may experience thoughts of ending your treatment prematurely. It's my nice way of saying suicide. I could tell you this, if you are experiencing those thoughts, I did it. I'm not ashamed to say. I did pick up the phone and called the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. On a cell phone, it's really easy. It's 988, and you'll be connected. Personal experience, I have mixed feelings about those folks. Some of them were really great, and all I really needed was just somebody to talk to, because you get down, you get depressed. For people who've experienced cancer, and I volunteer for the American Cancer Society, driving people on what they call their road to recovery. Now that I've finished all my treatments, I want to give back. And I talk to the patients that I'm driving from their homes to their treatments and then back home. I enjoy doing it. One thing that we all seem to have in common is, if you think about your friends, you have like what you call the inner circle. Those friends of yours that you think will always be there for you through thick and thin. Those friends that you think you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning with a problem, wake them up in their sleep, and they'll listen to you. And then you have like your outer circle of friends. You know, people you keep in touch with. Yeah, you might get invited over to a party. You don't think about them that much. You might invite them to your kid's birthday party, once a year. Send them a Christmas card. Well, I got to tell you from firsthand experience, when I was diagnosed, I honestly thought my inner circle would be there for me. No matter what happened, they would be there for me. I'm going to tell you right now, they weren't. They weren't. My inner circle became my outer circle, and my outer circle became my inner circle. Those were the people that were texting me once a week. How you feeling? How's the radiation going? And so it's amazing. And I had a boss at work at that time when I was diagnosed. We called him Robo Man because he was missing pieces of vital organs. He had cancer so many times in his life, and the guy just kept going. And he sat me down. He said to me, Brian, let me explain something to you. When you're dealing with cancer, okay, your friends around you, they feel it. And it makes them think of their own mortality. And people don't want to deal, for the most part, with their own mortality. They don't want to think that one day they're not going to wake up. They don't want to think that one day their life is going to come to an end. And being around somebody with cancer forces them to deal with their own mortality. They don't want to deal also with a friend suffering. So they leave. They'll leave you high and dry. They will go get moved to your outer circle. And then that outer circle of friends who really weren't that close with you before, you were close, but not that close. They move in to fill the void. Okay, and they're not thinking about mortality or anything. They're just saying, hey, this guy I know is suffering. So if you are suffering from cancer and you're feeling down and out, there are people at the National Suicide Prevention Hotline who will listen to you. There's been a few that I dealt with on the phone who they were in the wrong job. So if you're feeling down and out, you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling suicidal, pick up the phone. Be the strong man that you are. Pick up the phone and just talk to them. You don't have to give them your name if you don't want to. Make up a name. Okay? But if you do tell them that you are having suicidal thoughts, they will hit the panic button. They will dispatch police, maybe an ambulance to your location. And but they're doing it for your own good. They're doing it for your own benefit. Okay. If you do get diagnosed with any kind of cancer, male breast cancer or whatnot, and you are looking to reach out to get resources, I would strongly recommend the American Cancer Society. Their phone number is 1-800-227-2345. Again, 1-800-227-2345. The National Breast Cancer Foundation, they don't have an 800 number, but their number is 972-248-9200. Again, 972-248-9200. All right. Well, that brings today's episode to a close. I hope you found it helpful. Again, I'm hoping to post at least one episode a week for the foreseeable future. Not sure what my next topic is. I actually got 3 of them rolling around. I've started doing preliminary research on them. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you back soon. And thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Brian Thomas Kopac. The episode is called The Omega Glory, and this is Shatter the Silence.